From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a PrimeWave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, and it is time for the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I hope you are feeling the same. Once again, I want to thank you guys so much for getting my little views up over here on the YouTube and everything like that. I've been working pretty hard to try to make sure that we get the videos up, the numbers up, the subscribers up, all that good stuff. You know, things that I wasn't really doing that much before because I was trying to do 15 million things at once, but yeah, we are focused now on making this the best possible show that we possibly can because ain't nobody rocking like your boy, and you know that. So let's go ahead, jump into our first topic, and that's going to be the Steelers pull off an ugly Monday Night Football win, beating the Browns 26-22. Browns lose Chubb for the season. Ugh, man, that is rough on the Browns because Nick Chubb was having a game last night. Nick Chubb on 10 carries already had 64 yards and was averaging 6.4 yards. Everybody knows that when it comes to his history in the NFL, he's the third leading runner per average at 5.3. Well, all that came to a crashing end last night when he suffered a legitimate knee injury that's going to keep him out for the rest of the season. It was so bad that they didn't want to show it back on the replay, but I did see the play, and it was absolutely brutal. It looked like a piece of wood getting cut in half, man. And it was just a very, very sad sight to see. And for a moment there, it was a little motivational for the Browns, but all in all, we know that the Browns lost a game that they should have won last night because when you look at everything and you look at the numbers, there's no possible way that this team should have loses that game in any other circumstances. But when you have turnovers and a bunch of sacks given up by your offensive line and key turnovers at key points in the game, and then you have 2 defensive touchdowns, usually these games get a little bit uglier than they're supposed to be. And pretty much the Browns went ahead and dropped this one due to a late turnover, which was a fumble recovery that was ran in for a touchdown. So that changed the whole momentum of the game and literally put the Browns out of contention to win this game because they had 2 more drives after that went absolutely nowhere. So the Browns are still learning how to truly win in the NFL. When I look at the numbers last night, this was what we call a defensive game. Both teams had their issues on third down, even though the Browns won that portion of the battle. The Browns also gained 400 yards on the ground and still wind up losing this game by 4 points. They got almost 200 yards on the ground, 200 yards passing as well, to over 200 yards passing, and they ran 81 plays to 53. You just start looking at this in this list, how? But then you look at the 6 sacks, the 4 turnovers, and the 8 penalties that all seem to be timely and crucial for this team. So this was just an absolute just wash. You draw a line through it if you're the Browns and you just move on to next week. With the Steelers, you're telling yourself, we got out of this one with our shirts still intact. You know what I mean? We didn't lose the shirts on our backs last night because this would have been an absolute panic mode situation for the Steelers if they didn't get all those fortunate turnovers and all those great sacks and everything that they were able to get last night for the win in this game. It was absolutely an incredible defensive effort from a team that literally got no offense. They had one big offensive play, which was a 71-yard broken coverage touchdown from Greg Pickett. So this team is really has a lot of questions. But as I said before in many previews, and when I spoke about the Steelers, that they're a slow cooker, they're a slow starter. So expecting them to be one of the better teams in the first half of the season, you can probably go ahead and put that on the back burner. But when it comes to November and December, oh, this team is going to be live and they're going to be one of the better teams once they put everything together, if their quarterback can get some confidence. I feel like their quarterback lacks a little bit of confidence, and that's why he's been struggling so much in these first two games. But as me and Jeff said on the NFL Bet Exchange earlier, that they did play against two of the best defenses in the NFL, and pretty much this is what they had to show for it. All in all, the offense has supplied 19 points on the season, and that's what it is right now. So you can't expect the Steelers to be one of the better offenses at this point because their running game's not going anywhere. Their wide receiver core is down, a few receivers as well too, and it's just a real struggle right now. But with that defense, they'll be able to still be competitive in a lot of games, but a lot of their games are going to be very ugly as well moving forward. But we know that they're going to be an easy team to bet against here for the next few weeks because you can't trust their quarterback, and it's very simple with that as well too. And also, he hasn't been signed back yet, but Kareem Hunt has came to visit the Browns, and most likely he'll probably be signed by the end of tomorrow if everything works out, if he's not too out of shape and things like that. So that's a good look for the Browns moving forward, that they're bringing back somebody who's very familiar with the system. And him and Nick Chubb did make up one of the best running back tandems in the NFL as well too over the last few seasons. So with that, that's going to be a wrap on our Monday Night Football game from Pittsburgh. I know we had another Monday Night Football game last night with the Panthers and the Saints, but come on, man. We all know that game was more of a game that was on the schedule, and it was good in the sense to see the debut of the number one pick in the draft. But the Panthers are kind of a hopeless team at this point, a work in progress, as I like to say, and that's why we don't need to go too in-depthly into that game, because that game kind of went the way that everybody assumed it was going to go, even though I did have the Panthers winning that game. But all in all, it's all good. We move forward. Let's talk about the most popular man in the college football world, none other than prime time himself, Mr. Deion Sanders, leads his Colorado Buffaloes into his first conference game as their HC. Is it midnight for Cinderella? That's the question. Well, it may be, it may not be, but this team has a lot of questions that have to get answered on Saturday. Are they a team that can play at the elite level? Are they a team that can actually be a player in what now seems to be the toughest conference in America, the Pac-12? The Pac-12 has 8 teams ranked going into this weekend. That's absolutely nuts. You have Colorado, who moved themselves up to number 19. They're going against Oregon, who's the number 11 team in the nation this weekend. So it's our number 10, number 13. I have to recheck, but they are in the top 25 as well too. And so it makes it a very fun weekend for the conference in general, because you have a lot of really good matchups to open up conference play. But you have number 10 Oregon, and they feel like they have to prove a point here. Colorado already knows that they're coming in here with the love of the nation. They've became America's team, or America's most hated team. It doesn't matter what you want to call them. They are must-see TV because the hype that goes into the game and the intensity that Deion's actually coaching with. Deion is really a serious dude when it comes to head coaching his team. I know a lot of people feel like it's all about him and he's just making it all about Deion and the primetime show and what's he selling us. But Deion has a great group of coaches as well, too, that are coaching these guys up. People have to understand 3 head coaches retired from their positions to come be position coaches and coordinators with Deion. just because they knew that this can be a better chance for me to get on with a bigger program because I'm right here with the guy who's seen as one of the significant coaches in the CFB. And when you're a significant coach in the CFB, that gets other schools excited about poaching away certain coaches and things like that to run their programs. And the way that Deion's running Colorado is a very good example of the future of the NCAA. And pretty much you have a Colorado team that faces their first real adversity of the season. They're about to head into this game without superstar Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter's playing both sides of the ball. He was put out the game because of a lacerated liver, and he tried to keep going, but I knew right when he got hit that he shouldn't be back in that game. It was something that was very serious because he was in a lot of pain after that hit. And I thought it was a broken rib, but it wound up being a lacerated liver. So pretty much he's going to be done for the next month. All right. So people have to just get ready for that fact. Deion said 3 weeks, but most likely the guy's going to be done for a month. This team, when you look at their stats coming into the game, they are absolutely crushing it. You got Shadur Sanders coming in here averaging 417 pass yards per game. He's sitting at 1251 right now. You know he's at the top of the Johnny Unitas award. He's on top for the Heisman right now. Doesn't mean he's going to win these awards, but right now on paper, he does look like the best quarterback in the nation when you look at the stats. Now, he does have a very good room of speed. This is a track type team, and they do loom the danger. This 21-point spread, once again, is very disrespectful in my opinion. I know that Oregon's going to be a tough game for them, but who has the most to lose here, though? Deion and his group are seen as a group that's not supposed to really be here and be this good. You look at Oregon, Oregon has national championship aspirations. They can be interrupted with a big time effort from Colorado. And when you look at the numbers, who has Oregon played compared to who Colorado has played? Oregon hasn't really played anybody. And Colorado has played against TCU, a team that bounced back pretty well. Next week, they go against an arch rival in Nebraska, who had a defense that can say that they're a top 10 defense, and they absolutely cooked them. And then they come back and they show their grit by coming back and winning a game against a team that they were supposed to absolutely crush, but they're their arch rivals. And their arch rivals took offense to all the attention that they were getting, and it turned into flat out slobber knocker, as my man Keith Jackson would say, and it turned into a classic rivalry game. And that's exactly how it went. So you cannot sit up in here and already just write off Deion and his crew. But at the same time, too, you can say, you know what? I'm getting a little tired of all this attention that they're giving a team that we know is not going to win the national championship this year. But they're going to show great effort in trying to win a national championship this year because Deion believes they can. The team believes they can. The nation doesn't. But in the reality of the situation, and you look at this conference, you know that it's going to be a tough go ahead for this team when you look at the next 3 games on their schedule. And this is going to be the true test to see if Colorado is ready for the big time, or if we're just really excited about having a former legend as a head coach doing his thing on the sideline. We'll have to see. But with that, we move forward, and let's go ahead and jump into our next topic, which is going to be Alabama. Is Alabama still elite? Could this be Saban's final season? Well, there's a lot of questions when it comes to Alabama. And Alabama is not who we are used to at this point of the season. Alabama has gone through this a few times early in the year, taking an early loss, and everybody kind of giving up on them quickly. because it's out of the conference. It's against a team from Texas, and they just absolutely did not look like themselves the last 2 weeks. Texas came in there and destroyed them in the fourth quarter. It was a close game, and then the fourth quarter came around, and Texas absolutely took them to the woodshed. But we know that they had a bit of an advantage because Steve Sarkisian was one of Saban's coaches for half a decade, and he knows the playbook very well. And he knew the tendencies of the defense. He knew exactly what they were going to be doing. So that was a little bit of an advantage to him. And he had the playmakers that could take advantage of those flaws in the Alabama defense. And that's exactly what happened with them winning that game. Alabama's defense redeems themselves after giving up 34 points the week before. They're not used to doing that against a team from outside of the SEC, but they had to deal with it, get over it, and get into the next game. So they literally shut down South Florida, but they couldn't score any points. And then the game became a lot closer than it needed to be. And pretty much they played South Florida to old school type blowout win. You know what I mean? They beat them 17-3 or something like that. But still, they had to ensure that they beat them by 2 touchdowns just to make sure that they're still who they are. And they're having a lot of problems when it comes to the quarterback position as well, too. And if you don't have a good quarterback, it doesn't matter how much talent you have at the school, it's going to affect the rest of the team. And they took out the quarterback that actually has played the best, even though he lost to Texas. He still is the best option that they have at quarterback. And Nick Saban took him out to teach him a lesson after what happened the week before. And what happens in the game last weekend, they had to play patty cake with South Florida, who is ranked to finish last in the AAC, even though I think that's a much better team than they're portraying that they truly are. And I got them actually finishing a lot better than what their preseason numbers are, but they got the exact performance that they needed to move forward and have a successful conference season, in my opinion. And you got to thank Alabama for that. And I think Alabama got the right wake-up call to show them that, hey, everybody ain't scared of you no more. You know, you're not walking through here like Tyson in 1988 and, you know, you've already defeated your opponent. They're looking at you like George Foreman in 1998, 1997 and saying, you know what, we about tired of this. And I done seen you get beat on before. I ain't that scared of you. And that's how it's looking. So pretty much, I truly do feel that when it comes down to it, that this will wind up being a team that's going to go through the motions, but they're going to figure it out. Alabama just needs to get into this game with Ole Miss. I'm going to preview it a lot more later on this week when I get to my college previews on Thursday. And that's the game that they really need to mark down and know that it's a must-win situation, because if they wind up losing to Ole Miss, then literally they are out of the conversation for a national championship. And I know Nick Saban doesn't want that. And you know what? He definitely doesn't want to lose to a former colleague, a former, mentee in a sense, in Lane Kiffin. We know that. He never wants to lose to Lane Kiffin of all coaches that he's worked with. So, with that, let's go ahead and move forward and talk about a big rematch happening in the UK this weekend. We got Zhang going against Joe-Joyce, number 2 this weekend in the UK. Can Big Joe get his revenge? Now, we all know that Joe-Joyce was the headliner in the first fight because he was the headliner. He's the WBO Intercontinentals interim champion, and it looked like that he was putting himself in place to be the next up to fight Usyk, possibly. Well, Zhang wasn't having any of that. Zhang felt like, you know what? You need to respect who I am, and I'm about to introduce myself if you don't know who I am. And he absolutely cooked Joe-Joyce through 6 rounds. He was able to use a good, strong jab and throw some powerful punches. This guy literally is like a robot, but he's a robot that doesn't get hurt. You know what I mean? You don't know what the weakness is. And Joe-Joyce literally sat up there and took way too many punches in this fight. We know that Joe-Joyce is a guy who's really tough. He has a tough chin. It's tough to knock him down. Zhang did that very early in the fight. And, Joe-Joyce is the type of guy, if he's struggling, he can beat you late. And he never got the opportunity to try to beat Zhang late because the fight was so one-sided by the time it ended. But still, that doesn't mean that Zhang can walk off and have a fight against a top contender. He has to give Joe his rematch because maybe Joe was off that night. He has to prove that it wasn't a one-night wonder. That's how it is in the heavyweight division. That's why nobody can ever get mad about guys having a rematch in the heavyweight division, because you can best that man with one punch in the next fight. And that's exactly why we have a second fight coming, because it has to show that Zhang is for real and Joe-Joyce is a guy that had his time, but his time is past. But really, in reality, this is just another heavyweight fight. And sometimes matchups just do not fit certain guys. It doesn't mean that they're not that great of a fighter. It's just that the matchup doesn't suit you. And I feel like that's the issue here with Joe-Joyce. But knowing the heart of Joe-Joyce and knowing that Zhang got this win because he was fearless that night. Now he has an idea of what he's really going up against. Joe-Joyce, if he makes the right adjustments, can win this fight by decision. He does move his hands a lot quicker, and I would say that his ring IQ is much better. But if he wants to go in there and slug it out and have some type of bar fight with Zhang, Zhang is going to win again, and he's probably going to knock him out pretty brutally as well, too. I just really feel like Joe-Joyce is going to have to do a little Muhammad Ali work and do a little bit of George Foreman deception, and he could have a chance at knocking out Zhang or getting himself a unanimous or split decision in this fight. But he's going to have to be slick. He's going to have to be deceptive, and he's going to have to be first. That's the one thing that he's going to have to be. So with that, that's going to be a wrap on our latest boxing match for the week and everything like that. And I have more to talk about as we get along with the weekend, as we get more boxing news and everything of that nature. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break. And when I get back, we are talking baseball. So stay tuned. This is the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a PrimeWave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune in to Big Wave Boxing on the PrimeWave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we're back with the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. So let's go ahead and jump into our baseball news. And we got the Blue Crew Daily. Dodgers crushed Tigers to open up 3-game series at Chavez Ravine. The Dodgers are an absolute machine. I keep saying this, I keep preaching this, and they're just going about their business in a way that they don't really care about, you know, looking pretty, looking good, and having the best dance troupe in the MLB and having the best costume jewelry in the MLB. The Dodgers are over all that Mickey Mouse stuff, and they're ready to win a title in convincing fashion. And they know they got obstacles in front of them. They have to keep playing at a high level because they know that somebody's taking a little break right now, and they are the best team in baseball, and that's the Braves. The Dodgers, they've been doing this take a break thing the last few years, and it hasn't really worked out very well for them when they got to the playoffs because they weren't able to get back the mojo that they had during the season to win in the playoffs. Because I'm telling you, when you have to turn it off for a few days, sometimes it takes a little bit to get back into rhythm. And I feel like that happened to the Dodgers last year because they got the time off, a few days off, things like that. But the Padres had just came out of a awesome series with the second best team in baseball at the time, the Mets, who had one of the better records in baseball. Because you have to understand, 4 teams finished with 100 wins or better last year. And the Mets kind of went in there a little too cocky for themselves, and they wound up losing to the Padres. Then the Padres took that momentum and took it into the Dodgers series. And even though the Dodgers beat them 15 out of 20 times last year, they still went ahead and won the series because they knew exactly what to do to beat the Dodgers, and that's exactly what they did. And the Dodgers were a tired team. They just were a team that was really lollygagging because they thought that they were going to be able to have some miracle moment to where they were going to be back in a game and win the game, and it doesn't work like that. That only works when you're in a groove. The Dodgers never got into a groove during the playoffs last year, but now this team sees the light at the end of the tunnel. They know they got to finish strong. Roberts is doing the right thing, shifting around the lineup and everything like that, giving guys playing time right now that weren't getting much playing time throughout the season to see if they're going to be capable enough to be a part of the playoff roster. You know, there's a lot of things that the Dodgers are evaluating, but the Dodgers are still going about these. This is if they need to win the division every single game, or they're looking at it as if this is a sample size of what a playoff series can be. What do we have to do to go ahead and make ensure this team is ready for the second season? The Dodgers are doing everything correctly, in my opinion. They're working out these pitchers because they're having a tough time keeping pitchers healthy. They have these batters who are guys that are veterans that were stars in other places and have been at the highest of heights. It's good when you got guys that have won championships before on your team. It's not good when you have a great team and you lack guys that have rings. The Dodgers have a lot of guys on this team that have been a part of the big games in October. And it's all coming together the right way. And then you got a manager who's a baseball lifer in Dave Roberts. And it seems like everything should click, everything should work moving forward. This is a series that the Dodgers are taking seriously, as we saw last night. Lance Lynn had a great effort last night. They won 8-3. They're trying to go into this thing and win another series, not sweep the series, just win the series. And I truly do feel that the Dodgers are in place to make that big move, that big run. And I'm not trying to homer or anything of that nature. It's just that the timing is right for this team, and they got the right pieces in place to make the big run that they anticipate. And with that, let's go ahead, talk about some MLB Tuesday night. We got a full schedule tonight as well, too. We have everybody on the board playing. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight because we do have games that have a lot of meaning to them. And I'm going to talk about 3 of them that all have some meaning to them as well. Because, you know, there's teams that have already solidified themselves as the division champion. There's teams that are already going to make the playoffs in the wild card position. But there's those last spots that are wide open right now. separated by half a game, all that good stuff. So these games are really, really important these last few weeks. It doesn't matter who you're playing in a series. It doesn't matter what they've been doing all season. They are the most dangerous team in baseball for you at the moment if you're chasing the playoffs. That goes for when you're playing the Royals, when you're playing the A's, when you're playing the Nationals this month. These teams that I'm naming are all going to be teams that are going to be playing spoiler this month, and you have to be prepared for that. And a team that can play spoiler, and they usually aren't in a spoiler role, but hey, you know what? Injuries and inconsistent play has them here, and that's going to be none other than the Yankees, and they're taking on they're taking on the Blue Jays tonight, and this is going to be a game where the Blue Jays are the favorite here. They're 83-67 coming into the game. And that's not right because the Yankees are not 86-74. They wish they were 86-74. The Yankees are 76-74. I had to correct that. And the Yankees have worked themselves back into being above 500, but they haven't worked themselves back into really having a chance at making the playoffs. Even though they're 6.5 games out at this point, the Yankees will probably have to win for the next 2 weeks and hope for the absolute best that these teams fall apart. And I don't see that happening because they have three teams ahead of them, and they're back and forth with the Red Sox right now. It's just been a tough struggle for the Yankees this season. I think that it's time just to go ahead and wave the white flag moving forward, but they can go ahead and play spoiler. And Toronto's a team that's on the cusp of being in or being out of the playoffs. They are one bad series away from being 2.5 games out, and they're one great series away from being up a game and a half. That's how it's been going for Toronto the last month or so. They've been in and out the playoff picture all year long. And literally the last 3 months, it seems like they're good and then they're not. They're good and then they're not. That's the whole thing, man. It just seems like they're not consistent enough in the win department to stay afloat. And yeah, they're 83-67, but this team will win 6 in a row, then lose 6 in a row. That's been the Blue Jays season all season, or they'll go on to win 11 out of 14 and then come back around and lose 5 in a row. That's how their season has been going. It's been a lot of back and forth. Even though they're 83-67, that's the talent that's helping them win those games, I mean. And so with this, I think tonight what happens in this spot is that you have a game where you have a team that's been dominating the spoiler in a sense. And the Blue Jays have had their way with the Yankees all year this year. And that's one thing that we can say. And from what I'm looking at here, I feel like tonight's game is a perfect game to look at the scoreboard in my opinion. I think that's the absolute play here. And we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But I really do like the way that this game is setting up on the scoreboard. So I think that it is an over game tonight, to be honest with you. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But that's going to be the Blue Jays and the Yankees live from the Boogie Down Bronx. All right, so we move forward, and let's go ahead and jump into our National League game of the day, and that's going to be the Phillies and the Braves. And the Phillies and the Braves, both teams are playing their best baseball at this point. Well, not really the Braves. I would say that the Phillies are trying to keep these teams at bay. They are doing a great job of it as well, too. They're 3.5 games ahead of Arizona, and they're 4 games ahead of the Cubs, Reds, and 4.5 games ahead of Miami, and they find themselves 6 games ahead of San Francisco. So they're in good shape right now as the number 1 wild card team, and they have to keep things in place. But they've been able to really have their way with Atlanta this month. Even though they did lose 3 out of 4, they came back around last night and beat them 7-4. And so pretty much that's what I'm saying. They've went ahead and actually played pretty good after coming out of a pretty bad series with Atlanta. And then they struggled against Miami as well, too. So they had lost their last 2 series in a row, and then they were able to right those wrongs by beating St. Louis. But this team over the last 3 months has played the best baseball other than the Dodgers and the Braves in the National League and probably in all of baseball. And that's something that you do commend, because this team was already being counted out in May and June that, like, oh man, here we go again, but they're not going to catch up this time. And as soon as Bryce Harper jumped back into the lineup, this team just went off. And this is why they do loom a big danger coming into the playoffs. And who has them circled to play? The Dodgers would actually be in somewhat of a place to play them. No, they would actually play against Arizona, and then if they were to win that Arizona series, they would actually go ahead and go play. They would play Milwaukee. It looks like not Milwaukee, but they would go play the winner. They would play Atlanta. The winner of this will go play Atlanta. And I thought that possibly they might do it by who's the lowest team, but they don't, because if they did, the Dodgers would have played the Phillies last year and not the Padres. So when we go into the next round, the Dodgers look like they would be very happy with drawing Milwaukee, possibly, because the Cubs could be an issue. But we're talking about the Phillies and the Braves. And tonight in this game, I feel like what happens here is that we're going to have ourselves a pitcher duel. Spencer Strider's on the mound. Carlos Sanchez is on the mound. Both these guys are dynamite pitchers. Strider is doing something very historic this year. Sanchez is always the guy that can go in there and get you some good quality innings. So this, to me, tonight feels like it's going to be the under 8.5 in this spot. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But Phillies Braves looks pretty good to me, and we'll go from there. All right, so we have ourselves the final game I'm going to talk about, and this is actually going to be our dog of the day, to be exact, and that's going to be the Giants, who are 76-74 coming into this game. The Diamondbacks 79-72. The pressure is on now, and that's what I'm seeing when we put this game together. And I truly do feel that the Giants are in a position right now to be a team that can make a big run to get into the playoffs. I know Mike is all over them, but at the same time, Arizona's been too good this season to really lose out on that playoff spot, in my opinion. I feel like Arizona is the team for the long term, other than the Dodgers in the West at this point, because they've taken their time building this team up. They don't need a bunch of superstars because they're building the superstars themselves. They took a page out of the Dodgers book, because pretty much the Dodgers had their training camp in Arizona, and we're in Arizona. So you take good, extensive notes on what your competition is doing and how they're winning these games. And they're going to create their next $200 million man. They're not going to go look for him in the free agency market. This team is stacked with a lot of young talent, and I think that they're doing exactly what a lot of these young, talented teams that took their time building up great players in the farm system that will be their long-term players for the next 5 to 6 years. I feel like Arizona, the Reds, and the Orioles have taken full advantage of that. The Royals are taking their time with that. They have some guys as well, too. And the Nationals are going to be a team that I'm going to get really excited about next year, because I feel like they can sign a big vet during the summer as well, during the winter as well, too, just like they did years ago when they brought in guys like Jason Worth and when they brought in Mad Max Scherzer and things like that, because they have attractive enough farm system, attractive enough talent to where a star might want to come help this team push themselves to the next level. But sticking to this game tonight, I'm going to go ahead and take the road team and the Giants to go ahead and get themselves a good win tonight to keep their season alive. But we know the Diamondbacks have been a thorn in their side all year as well, too. But this is a must-win game for the Giants, and we all know that, Arizona can afford to lose, but they don't want to lose. But the Giants are in a no-lose situation in this series. They really have to win this series to really even fathom making the playoffs at this point. But we know it's still going to be a big struggle here the last few weeks of the season. But this is going to be probably the best series of the week as well, too. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But I do like the Giants tonight as our dog of the day with the plus 130. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take our final commercial break. And when I get back, we are going to get into the Talking Tickets, your favorite subject, my favorite subject. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash, and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
We're back with the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles. So pretty much let's go ahead and get into what everybody signed up for, what everybody tunes in for, and that's Talking Tickets. That's what I'm here for, man, to give you guys the best bets in the industry. And I know I'm over here doing the whole shock jock talk and all that good stuff, but that's what the people want as well, too. So let's go ahead and jump into what you came here for, because I know I got some avid viewers that come here directly for Talking Tickets, and let's talk about it. All right, we got the primetime pick 6, 51-1 tonight. Super value ticket, $20 gets you 10-20, baby. That's it. That's I'm telling you, I'm paying rent tonight. All right, how about that? We have the over 8 with the Angels and the Rays tonight. We have the over 8.5 with the Phillies and the Braves. We also have the Royals plus 135. We have the Cubbies with the minus 1.5 plus 110. We also have the Brewers minus 130 tonight. As you know, I think they're on the road tonight. Yeah. They're playing against the Cardinals too. And then we have the Orioles, who are in their matchup with the Astros, trying to hold on to the number 1 spot in the American League. And it should be a good one. I got the Orioles keeping it close, plus 1.5 tonight. I messed up last night. I had the Astros at the minus 1.5, but shit, we was getting plus 120 on that bad boy as well, too. They wound up losing that game by 1. I think tonight the Orioles figure it out and they keep this game very close, because that's how this series is looking for the rest of the week, that these teams are going to be at each other's throat, just like a playoff game, and that's how they're treating it. All right, let's go ahead and get to the late ticket, and that's going to be the MLB Late PK4, which is going to be 19-1. We got the Rockies coming through with the plus 125 on the run line, plus 1.5. We just need them to lose by a run, and we cash that ticket. Then we have our dog of the day, which is going to be the Giants at plus 130. They're on the road tonight, going against one of their arch rivals in the Diamondbacks. It doesn't matter. When you're a team in the same division, you're all arch rivals, because you're not really supposed to like each other. So I'm going to keep saying that. So pretty much, but we know who the the Giants' super rival is, and that's going to be none other than the boys in blue. But we got them tonight as our dog of the day, plus 130. Then we have the over 7.5 with the Mariners and the A's. This should be another really, really good game tonight. I truly do feel like this will wind up being shootout somewhat, a firefight, and we get the over 7.5 in this spot. And under 9 with the Tigers and the Dodgers. There hasn't been any starters announced on each side, so that means that both teams are going with openers, it looks like. So when it comes down to this, a lot of times I like to trust the bullpens for both teams, and I think we can trust both bullpens tonight to give us a very good pitchers duel in this matchup, and that's why I'm taking the under 9 in the spot as well. So there it is. 2 really healthy tickets for you guys. We got a pick 4 that's 19-1. You guys put 20 on that bad boy, it's 380, and then you get your 20 back, it's 400. And then if you play your play the 51-1, as I said before, you put 20 on that bad boy, you come back to it, and you'll get back 10-20 on that bad boy. That's $1,020, not $10.20. Okay, so with that, that's going to be a wrap for today's show. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. You guys are the absolute best. And as I always say, bet with your head, not with your heart. The movement is moving, and this is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. And I'll be right back at you tomorrow. But for now, I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a PrimeWave Media production.